Poody, do you just not like doing final twos?
No, I don't.
Okay.
And it allows me to have more players with less challenges, so no brainer for me.
I don't like final threes, but I can imagine why it's easier as a host.
32 days, 3 castaways, 3 co-hosts, and 1 podcast. This is Stranded in Tanzania, and I'm your host, Poody. We're joined by Hannah from Stranded in Turks and Caicos, season 32.
Yeah, get it to it.
Nofo, who originally played in Stranded in Venezuela, season 19.
And came back in Legends, Marquesas, Revenge, and Off-Stranded.
Look, if we have to list your resume, we're going to be here a while. We'll say also the host of Isolated. How about that?
Ew.
We're also joined by Loveita, who originally played in Stranded for Victory, season 36.
Hello.
All right, and now we are in the final 3. We're in the midst of the final Tribal Council weekend, where we have a weekend-long jury questioning, which is kind of brutal for people, but, you know. I guess we'll look back at the events from our last podcast, which were last weekend. So we have to talk about the removal of Missy and Angelina.
That's not fun, but I guess we have to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it in previous podcasts. We had the misfortune of having players talk outside of the game. We don't know really how much or how little they conspired, these bitches, but we know that there was at the very least a group chat between Reem, Missy, and Angelina. And as per the rules, you cannot contact anyone outside of the forum. So just by virtue of there being a group chat, that is breaking the rules. So we had to remove Angelina, who was still in the game with an idol, and Missy from the jury.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Just objectively, it sucks. Even without my own opinion on this particular situation, this kind of sucks for the future of not wanting to cast people and not wanting people on the host if they're referred by us, but it's kind of a weird situation now.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to host when your sister plays.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, it's unfortunate in a lot of areas. We run the Lurker server. We give everyone unprecedented access to everything, and most orgs do not do that. So, you know, with that is the built-in trust of, hey, these people have played Stranded before and they have a respect for the game. I'm not saying that these guys disrespected the game, but in a sense they did just by having this group chat. However innocent it may have been, just playing devil's advocate. That means that going forward, we have to reassess lurking in general, and that sucks. Like, I don't know, I feel like we've gotten close as a community, and I put a certain level of trust in people. So to have that broken this season was disappointing.
Definitely.
You know, I mean, look, I'm sure they'll have their side of the story. I'm sure we'll talk to them eventually about it. But right now, our focus is on the people that were not breaking the rules. So we did our best to protect the integrity of the season by taking swift action. And of course, it's not. Like, the season has a very different ending, I'm sure, because of this. Maybe. But I think it's similar to something on Survivor where someone would be removed. Dan, in the last season of Survivor, not this Dan, but on the actual show, was removed. I'm sure that affected some people's strategy going into the finals. So, you know, in a sense, it's part of the game, but it sucks that something external has affected the outcome of the game internally.
Well, hopefully, you know, during the reunion, they will get their chance to tell their side of the story. And people will have the chance to make up their own mind on how they feel about it.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing before we move on from this swiftly onto better topics. You know, I think the easy decision would have been to ignore this and let Angelina continue and sweep it under the rug like it didn't happen. But that's not how we do things. We have built this on a system of fairness, and I think it's important to, no matter how small the offense may have been, it's still a major rule break, and we have those rules in place for a reason. So I felt like we had to do that just by going strictly by the rules. You know, no hard feelings, taking my personal feelings out of it, because personally, I really enjoyed Angelina in the game. I was really rooting for Peroto and Angelina in general. So I was looking forward to a Missy final tribal council, and, you know, it sucks that we were kind of robbed of that. So I just want to put that out there, that this was actually the harder decision, whereas I think the easier road would have been like, hey, let's all just sweep this under the rug. So that's all I have to say about the cheating scandal. How it affects the game going forward, I think it put John in a really bad position. I think he was in a bad position to begin with. Like, I think he was going to go home, but I think he could have survived another tribal council, and anything can happen.
There had been talks about trying to blindside Angelina that round. So with that, it's possible it wouldn't have changed too much, but also in blindsiding Angelina, it could have put different people in different positions by making that move.
I agree.
Let me pull up the voting blog.
Yeah, I was rooting for Angelina. I'm sad.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. And, look, I'm sure they're going to have their side of the story. I'm sure they're unhappy with how we handled it. I know they're unhappy about how we handled it. But, what you going to do?
Only one of them is unhappy with how we handled it.
Yeah.
The other two say they're okay with it, or they did.
And I'm more than willing to give that person their chance to clear their name, defend themselves. Certainly we'll give Reem that opportunity as a friend of ours. We want this. It sucks that this has to be a bad experience. We don't want it to be a bad experience for anyone. So it looks like at this tribal council, John gets 5 votes to Nick's 2. So Kara turns on John here.
Yep.
Very sad.
And Tommy a little bit too turns on John here.
Well, yeah, he votes against him. But it looks like, John had voted against Nick, so it's not such a stretch. A lot had gone on with like Aaron getting in Kara's ear. John was kind of flirting with working with Aaron for a little bit. It was a messy weekend, let's put it that way.
Yeah, there were a lot of different 3 and 4 group alliances formed that were often overlapping. They all of the information got out because one person would tell another and it would spread like wildfire. So in the wake of all of that, John ends up being the primary target.
I had kind of assumed John would go home at this tribal council, even before we pulled Angelina, because we had that challenge right before the weekend where, they had the home truths of what everyone thinks about them. And John really got pinpointed as like a big threat. That anyone didn't know that already, but it became blatantly obvious he was the biggest threat left. So, I expected them to make a move on John. But then again, we expected John to be out first at the merge. So it's insane that John got all the way to the final 7, Yeah,
I think touchy subjects kind of sealed it for him. But yeah, we kind of thought he was going to go like 5 rounds before that. But I don't know.
Considering people were targeting him during the swap before they ever met him, I think the fact he made it as far as he did was really impressive. And if he had managed to, win out or eke his way into that final 3, he had guaranteed himself the win. There was no way he was not winning the game had he made it there.
Yeah, I think it's worth saying. We've said this a lot, but I think it's worth saying again, so this is John's swan song, if you will, that I think John is one of the best characters we've had in Stranded. Because it's so hard to find someone very likable that is entertaining, if that makes sense. Like, it's easy to find someone who's villainous and entertaining, right? I think those are a dime a dozen. But to find someone who you genuinely root for that is pretty kind-hearted, like in this game, is very rare. So watching John strategically throughout the whole season was special, I thought. I watch this all the time, and usually seasons are kind of formulaic, but to see John, I guess you could put him in the same category as like a Susie or a Jordan from Isolated. Just these rare players that we don't get super often that have guts and will play, but are also like kind of making moves out of sympathy and kindness a lot of the time. For instance, like I think he saved Peroto at the initial merge where he gave all his coins for tribal immunity instead of taking the public immunity. I think, he pulled together that band of Peroto 4. We saw him give his idol to Jessica on the other tribe. I just think he's acted very selflessly while still being strategic, which is very hard to do. And I think he's lasted much further than I gave him credit for. So that's a testament to his gameplay.
He was well at the top of the fan favorite rating, maybe only having the competition of Lauren, but also on the player ranking of the player of the week ranking. He was at the top there almost every week, I think. So that really shows something. And also pre-jury, they were saying that they really hope he wins. So it really showed that everybody liked him. Everybody thought he was doing a great job.
Yeah, it gave me shades of like Winston in Isolated. But even, Winston had like his sassy side too. I think John was just a really nice guy throughout the whole time,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next tribal council, which is much more controversial. But I think, it's an interesting one. We have Allison who goes home 4-1-1. I don't think this was like set in stone at the time. I think it was pretty up in the air. Allison's storyline this season has been incredible. As much kudos as we give John is also a very seasoned player, whereas Allison, this is her first game. And while she hasn't played, let's say, the best strategic game, I think she's been authentic and has played a solid game, especially for someone this is their first time. And I think with Allison, we were all really invested after the whole Dean storyline. We love seeing her get her revenge on Dean, someone who really fucked her over pretty personally. And I love that she didn't take it too personally.
Yeah, they're super buddy in jury right now.
I think as a lurker, though, we were invested in that storyline of like Dean obviously playing her emotions and her being taken advantage of. So it was awesome to see her finally stand up for herself, get rid of Dean, and, kind of reclaim her game as not this person who was just going to do whatever Dean said because Dean wooed her into a place of vulnerability,
Okay, what I have to say about Allison is as likable and as nice and as boring as John is, this is Allison's season. This is her story. It's been all about her for pretty much the entire season. Pretty much every interesting moment or exciting event, it revolved around Allison. And I think she is absolutely my favorite of the season. And she's going to be at the top of my fan favorite poll. I don't know who else agrees with me. If anyone agrees with me, I just absolutely love her. And I think, Cara made a really stupid decision. I don't know how it's not biting her in the ass in the jury when it really should, because that was just stupid of her.
Well, getting rid of Allison there, that wasn't a dumb move, but just the whole,
the way she
I'm going to play this idol. I'm going to play this idol on you. That's so stupid to say so soon before the vote. You don't have to do that. You don't have to lie like that. That's just going to lose you a jury vote. And, she just played the idol on herself and just ignored her. Then that would have looked 1,000 times better. But no, she just had terrible jury management there. I don't know why she did.
Yes, I agree completely. The way she handled the idol situation was really stupid, and I think it was really short-sighted of her. But
so before you get into it, Loveita, I'll hand over to you after this. But let's set it up. Cara. So after Angelina's gone, we introduce a new idol into the game. Yeah. We understand most people know that Angelina had the idol, but we can't really reveal that. So we just announce it as like a new idol's in the game. I think everyone knew what that meant. Like, hey, Angelina had an idol. But, so we introduce this new idol. Cara finds the idol. Kudos, Cara. Unfortunately, she kind of misplayed it at this tribal council. So this tribal council, Cara has the chance to do whatever she wants, essentially, because she knows the votes are going to Allison, and she knows where Allison's voting. So Cara decides to try to bully a Tommy vote, I believe, is what she was doing. Like, she was kind of bluffing about the idol. She let everyone know that she had it, and that she told people she was playing on Allison. She told Allison she was playing it on Allison. But to me, when I was watching it, I knew what she was doing. It was kind of a rookie move. I mean, you could tell this was like her second or third game, right? Because she had enough balls to like do something with the idol, and she knew where everyone was voting. Where she lacked the confidence was like actually pulling the trigger on it and getting rid of someone she wanted to. I think she wanted to have her cake and eat it too, right? She wanted to play the idol for herself, ensuring safety, while also making a move and convincing people to vote out Tommy. I don't think she should have known nobody was going to go for that at this tribal council, and she should have played it on Allison and voted with Allison against Tommy. That's what should have happened.
I was going to say that I think she just caught up in her own head about it, about how to use that idol the best way, and let it take over too much of her thinking process, because she won. So she found the idol at Final 7, and then she wins immunity, individual immunity. So she doesn't have to worry about the idol at Final 7. She knows she can just keep it for this round. So I think what she does is she starts fixating on what to do this round, and by the time she like really figures out what she wants to do, tribal is already halfway happening. She doesn't have the time to do what she wants, and instead she makes a few faux pas, I think, in what she's doing. There's entirely possible she was going to use the idol on Allison when she said that. She has that excuse that since Allison voted Jack instead of Tommy, that's why she didn't use it, because Allison said that she didn't change her vote. So, but the whole fact is, if you have an idol, you're planning to play it on somebody, I would just play it on them. Don't tell them beforehand. Give yourself the ability to go back on that statement.
Right.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here as well, because I think everyone watching this shat all over Kara's game and move in this instance. Is there a scenario? Let's say this works. Let's say she bullies Nick or Aaron or Tom or whoever she's bullying into actually voting for Tommy. Obviously, she couldn't bully Tommy into voting for himself, but you know what I'm saying. Let's say she convinces Nick to just vote for Tommy because she's going to play an idol. Do we then think it's a bad move if Tommy ends up going and she plays an idol on herself?
Also, to be very fair, just a few councils before that, John did that move of switching all the votes to Lauren when there were only like 3 minutes left before the vote. I don't know, maybe a little bit more than that. So he was able to kind of pull that off. So she thought maybe I'm able to pull that off. I mean, I know that the move was totally different, so it's hard to compare. But
I think contextually, you know, like those 3 people who switched their votes to Lauren real quick were desperate. And this was like Kara trying to convince people with an argument to switch their votes.
Do I have a list right now?
Yes, you and I both.
Oh, man.
My lisp is showing. No. I think, you know, we're all thinking of like what Kara should do. I mean, the best move, I think, for Kara is to hold on to that idol until Final 3. I mean, we say that every season, but I think it's the most baller move is to like pull out an idol no one knew about and just whip it out at Final Tribal and say, look, I had the idol. I didn't need to play it. I had it as a contingency, but no one knew about it. And I think that guarantees a win. Kara's lacking that pulling of the trigger, if you will. So, you know, like you were saying, she saw John do that at a previous tribal council with Lawrence Boot. John is a very experienced gamer. He's played for 15 years, let's say. That really showed Kara's weakness as a new player, I think, was not being able to pull the trigger on a lot of these moves with that idol. And we're kind of waiting for Kara to really pull the trigger. I feel like she's gotten everything right in terms of her placement, in terms of her alliances, in terms of, you know, who goes home when. I think she's actually playing really well. The problem is she doesn't pull the trigger and she doesn't own her moves. And in fact, she's made some slip ups, specifically that moment, because I think she really slipped from, you know, Final 6 is such a crucial time. It's like the last time you can really make a big move before the final and impress a jury. And she had that by the balls. I mean, she had the idol. She knew where all the votes were going. She had a target in mind. She could have really, really solidified her win there, especially if she knew Allison was voting for Jack. She had built the groundwork to target Jack the whole time. She could have really made a show out of playing the idol and saying, I'm saving my girl Allison. That takes away Allison's power in a final. And saying, I'm getting rid of the GOAT. We're all playing this to win. And playing the idol on Allison. And I think, you know, that would have certainly built a good resume going into the final. Instead, she squandered the opportunity, played it on herself, which was a safe move, and didn't really gain anything from that tribal.
Right.
Is there anything else we can say about this tribal council where Allison goes home?
I mean, Kara, I'm just going to say it again. Kara got really lucky. No one cares about that tribal council because it does not look good on paper, but they don't care. So
I don't think it doesn't look good to us as viewers. I don't know if to them it had any consequence, because playing an idol on yourself is never a bad move because it guarantees you safety. So, you know, I mean, it's not like she really fucked up there. It's just like she had such an opportunity that she wasted. And as a viewer, we can see that, but I can also see how players in the game wouldn't see that. They didn't know about the idol, and, you know, they're not looking at Kara as a winner threat at that point. We'll see what gets asked at this final tribal in regards to that. I don't know if people will even pick it up as like the moment she really fucked herself, or maybe she doesn't. Maybe she wins. We don't know. Let's go ahead and move on to the next tribal council. It's the final 5. Allison's gone. It's really Aaron, Jack, Kara, Nick, and Tommy. Nick ends up going at this tribal council. I think Nick was someone that everyone expected to win this season. I've always kind of viewed Nick as a Tim, where I knew when it got down to numbers, he would be a big target. He had a great shot to win. I just figured, when you start looking at final 6 on, those people like Nick, Allison, those people get targeted early. Even Tommy. Even Aaron was someone who could have gone where Nick went and probably should have. What do we think about Nick's boot?
I don't think about it.
Don't want to jump up at the same time.
He was like the last person I was rooting for, to be very honest. So him going, it was just like, well, okay, great.
I think Nick was a decent strategist. His social game was awful to me. I wasn't invested in him at all. I'm with Nofo on this one. I think he played a decent game. I think, he did some good things with the stranded coin. He made that flip where he flipped to Peroto, which I think was a very smart move. I think what he lacked was the flip back. And really, I never saw Nick as a threat to win because Nick didn't make good connections in the game. And at the end of the day, I think when you're on the jury, that plays heavily in your decision, what kind of connection you have with someone. And Nick was viewed as like not being there that often, not being around to strategize with for stuff, and turning on people. So I really wasn't impressed with Nick going into a final as a winner. I think Nick needed a little bit more personality, or that's harsh to say, but he needed something personal with the other people in the game to make them want to vote for him to win. And he didn't have that.
Yeah, there was some sort of charisma or something that might have been missing there, where I think people both in and outside of the game saw him a little bit more as a game bot, somebody who is ultra strategy. I think the people inside the game were pretty scared of that. I don't know if he would have ended up with the win had he made Final 3, but I think everybody left in the game at that point thought he was the biggest threat to win. While he was trying to argue Aaron was the bigger threat, I think Tommy and Jack both saw Nick as a much bigger threat. And Tommy's vote was really the one that mattered in this particular council. And so Aaron's personal relationship with Tommy, I think, saved him here.
Yeah, I agree. Nick lacked. I didn't see Nick as a winner this season. I do think he played a decent game. I really commend him for the flip. I just think if he's going to play again, he needs to throw himself in personality-wise. But I don't know. He's not a very strong personality in general. He's just very likable. So maybe that's just who he is,
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the final 4. Aaron, Jack, Kara, and Tommy. I think there's a lot to talk about here because we see them boot Tommy unanimously. And Tommy is under the impression that Aaron is going to vote with him and Jack is going to vote with him against Kara. What do we think about the move to get rid of Tommy? I think it was a good move on Aaron's part, unfortunately for us, because I think Tommy would have been a fantastic winner. But they ended up taking out Tommy.
Hearing more from the jury, seeing Tommy in jury, and the reactions from to him in jury, I think Tommy definitely would have won if they had not voted him out there. But I agree with Tommy in that Aaron and Jack had no need to lie and try to blindside Tommy there at the final 4. It's completely pointless.
Yeah, I mean, what was he going to do? Force a tie with Kara? Like, what the fuck? Why? Why rub salt in the wound? Let's also talk about Jack, because this is a big moment for Jack where so I had kind of bullied Jack, in all fairness, at one of the previous tribal councils, I think Final 6. He had outed himself as a goat. And as you guys know, I am not shy about bringing up touchy subjects during tribal council. So once he said, I'm a goat. Weakness. Yeah, I mean, once he laid himself up as, I'm a goat, I'm not going to win, I'm eating grass, or whatever he was doing, it was like, oh, well, if you see yourself as a goat that can't win, I'm going to hammer that home to everyone at Tribal Council. I even kind of laid on like the Scooby-Doo reveal. I laid on India, where the jury, as a last fuck you to the finalists, voted for the worst, and voted for one of the biggest goats in Stranded history, as kind of a warning shot to people like, hey, you may view Jack as a goat, and that's fine, but keeping a goat through to the end is not necessarily a great strategic move. And as we saw for Nick and Tommy, it was a fatal move.
Yeah.
All right, no one's good. No one's going to add anything to that. Right.
Before the last challenge, Jack said that told people to vote him out, and then he won the challenge. So
yeah. So the follow-up to that, my bullying, is I think Jack got pretty low on himself to the point where he was saying, look, I want to enable Aaron to win, I think was his motivation, where he was like, just take me out. Vote me out of Final Four. He then goes on to win the box challenge, which no one saw coming. I didn't see coming. I didn't think he was going to win. I thought for sure it was like Kara's to lose, frankly. Yet he won. I don't want to say he beasted because like they all kind of performed poorly. I mean, they took like 30 minutes
more
in the
than
last.
Kinda. It
Yeah,
was
they
really
took like
bad.
30 minutes on the last one. And we also need to shout out Aaron's terrible gameplay during that. Like that may actually cost Aaron some votes because he was stuck on the first box and kind of disappeared while everyone was in the final box.
You mean his terrible challenge performance every single challenge?
Yeah, Aaron is... But for some reason, we'll get into Aaron. Let's talk about... So Jack goes on to win this challenge, totally skewing our perception that Jack was going to like ask to be voted out, which I don't even know if he would have been. I feel like they would have kept him in regardless. Tommy goes home. Tommy votes for Kara. I think that's probably a good move for the Final Four because I think Tommy wins hands down in this Final Three, just given how likable he is and the connections he built, which I think, Tommy played a terrible game. Let's be real. Strategically, he was behind a few steps the whole time, beside his flip with Nick. But on the whole, he was kind of behind the whole season. So really, Tommy's strength was his connections with people and his likability. But that is enough. That we should minimize that because in a Final Three, people totally vote based off their experience with other people. So Tommy, I think, was the winner out of these four if he gets through. So Tommy goes home. Let's talk about, let's eulogize Tommy. I think Tommy played a great game. I think he was very nice throughout. He's someone that Nofo did not like in the beginning and I think warmed to over time.
Rest in peace, King. I used to hate you with every part of my being, but now I love you. And, I'm really sad you left. Yeah, I absolutely adore you. I don't know if it's because you're actually good or if it's just because I hate everyone else, but I love you.
Yeah, Tommy, I think, Tommy to me is like, I mean, he's not like a coach because coach got pretty arrogant and aggravating, but he's almost like that guy who's just really likable. He's playing the game, but he's terrible at it, really. But he's so likable and genuine. I get that feeling from Tommy. Like, he's a very nice guy. He gives everyone the benefit of the doubt. Like, I go back to when, he's talking to Missy and Missy's telling him about her period. And he's like, oh, I understand that's so awful for you. Like, he's just being a really sweet guy, even though she's fucking lying to him. And he should not believe that at all. But he just does because that's Tommy. And I feel like he was this sweetheart all season. Not the best player. Not someone who I thought would win. But, well, I mean, we did pin him early as a winner, but I wouldn't have thought he would win based on his play from like the swap on. But I think, Tommy's going to go down as a character for being super likable. I mean, he won Nofo over, who was staunchly against Tommy and any straight white male this season. But I think he was likable enough to do that. So I think that's Tommy in a nutshell this season. Very lovable, not the best player, but probably would have deserved to win because he was so passionate, and we like an honest player that is passionate about doing the right thing, I think.
Tommy is very earnest, and that definitely won me over. Nate also says that Tommy and Matt are quite similar. Matt from last season of ISO. And
yes,
that he wants them to have middle-aged men tea parties or whatever.
Yeah, we're shipping Matt and Tommy as friends because Tommy is a coach. He coaches youth, but Tommy and Matt are very similar. Matt from Isolated, and we love Matt. So he wasn't the best player, but I think he would have been a deserving winner. So they had to get rid of him, and I totally understand that. I think it's the right move. But that's Tommy. So I think Tommy is someone we all like. I think we look forward to him in the community. I think he'll be very fun to talk to. But him as the last juror, I think, is appropriate,
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the final three. We have Aaron, Jack, and Kara heading into the finals. I think it's up in the air for all of them. I think Aaron is the obvious front runner going in. However, I don't think Aaron's played a stellar game. I don't know if anyone this season has played a stellar game outside of maybe John. this was weird, but during that final, when Jack surprise won immunity, I think Jack has gotten some sympathy from the jury. I think he's super lovable, very nice, but definitely a goat. But I think the jury kind of sympathizes with him and loved the fact that he won that final tribal. So Jack does stand a chance to get some votes. I don't think he'll win, but winning that final immunity was a great move for Jack. I would hate if Jack won. I think he's a goat. I think he's the quintessential goat, maybe the biggest goat we've ever had. But that kind of makes him interesting in general, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, he's super lovable, but he's okay with being a goat, which is something we've not had. So I'm interested in Jack. I don't think he'll win, but it would be interesting. I think the jury is interested too. I think that they're not super whelmed with any of the final three. So it might be enough to where Jack, is a difference between the three. Whereas Aaron and Kara have played very similar games.
I think in particular, Lauren and Allison were really banking on voting for Tommy. Mm-hmm. And neither of them can now. And right. I think Jack has the possibility to pick up one or both of their votes if he performs well during this final tribal.
I'll say this. I would hate for a Jack win for this reason. We never promote a GOAT game. We always root against that because we want people to play interesting. We want them to be themselves, authentic, but also like give us a good show, right? We're not here for someone to just be quiet the whole season, do very little, and win the whole thing. However, that has worked in the past, and Jack has a good shot. I would hate for him to win for that reason, purely because it would mean going forward that was a successful strategy. And I don't want that to be a successful strategy. I don't think it deserves to be a successful strategy. Sorry, Jack. But I think you need a little bit more than that to win. For that reason, I'm endorsing Aaron and Kara as a winner. I think Jack is a super nice guy. I think he played to the best of his ability, but I don't think it's enough to win. And I hope it's not enough to win, because if it is enough to win, that means future players can do that. And we don't want a bunch of Jacks in the game because it's boring as shit. Sorry, Jack.
Can we have John and or Allison on the middle of the cover?
We'll talk about cover, and we'll talk about the season as a whole. But let's talk about the final three right now. We can't talk much more about Jack. We kind of covered him. Let's talk about Kara. Kara is someone who, on paper, we love. We love her story arc. I thought she played a great game up until about mid-merge. However, I think she really fumbled the ball in this last half of the merge. I think she had a couple of opportunities to really grab a hold of the merge strategy and the spotlight. And while I know that sets you up as a target, I think she should have taken those shots, and really, she would be sitting very well in this position had she just had one or two more things she could claim as a winning strategy. But at this point, I think the jury might unfortunately view her as too big of a goat to win. And I don't know if that's necessarily wrong. What do we think?
Yeah, Kara's a very interesting case because I think she's had some great moments. I think she's had some very passive gameplay, and I think she's also had some bad moments. So in that sense, it's kind of well-rounded, but it's I think that this final tribal really matters for her, because if she's able to, and it's not a Scooby-Doo reveal necessarily. Like, people know, there are people in the jury who know what she's done, and they want her to show that and show the other people who haven't seen that. So she has some advocates in the jury. I think Nick is one. His question for her in particular was, show everybody else what I saw, essentially.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, so he wants her to talk up her strategy. So I think with those couple of jury members who are maybe helping her out and facilitating that could lead to a really strong showing from her and get some votes that way.
Yeah, it's interesting, I don't think Kara has played a bad game by any stretch. I think actually, she knew where she stood. I think she played a little too passively, like you mentioned. She could have laid claim to some moves, but that also puts you at risk for going home. But I think, she knew where she was in Peroto, and she made the move when she needed to against John and Allison. As much as we hate it, I don't hate it for her. I think she just needs to really own her game in this final. If she can do that, she stands a chance. I think, we'll segue this into Aaron. Aaron is someone who I think has misstepped a lot more than I think Kara and Jack have, actually. I think Aaron played second fiddle to Nick, where Kara played second fiddle to like John and Allison. Jack played second fiddle to Aaron, I guess.
Jack played like fourth fiddle.
Yeah, Jack was not even he was not fiddling. He was in the audience listening to the orchestra. But let's say, Aaron is someone I think who misstepped a lot, but I had to give him credit. I do. I think, final 6 on, he had a solid strategy. I think he implemented it well. I just think his gameplay up until that point was not great. And he's very arrogant about it, which is also not great. So part of me is rooting against him, a large part of me.
Yeah,
But
if he starts being condescending about game moves he made that that the jury doesn't think are good game moves, that will hurt him.
yeah,
I honestly feel bad because I spent the entire season shitting on him, and then he made that post in his confessional or whatever, talking about how glad he was that he messaged me or whatever. I felt really bad. Like, I'm sorry, but oh my god, I just do not like him.
Well, I think Aaron, I know why you don't like him. He is part of like straight white douche bro. Maybe. We don't even know.
No, even more
And this
than
is
that,
Aaron,
even
the
more
game
than that.
player.
No,
Not
I'm
Aaron,
gonna
the
get to
person.
it. He did mention when Dean revealed he was gay, he went into like a whole, oh, I thought you were soft or something like. He's like, oh, that makes sense because you're more gentle than the rest of us, right?
Yeah, it was like something about sensitive.
Yeah, which is not cool, Aaron. But that aside, right? Like, let's give him benefit of the doubt of ignorance. I think he's a very excited first-time player, and he's made a lot of mistakes. He's viewed himself as like a mastermind who's going to win this whole game. To be fair, he's done a lot right. Like, he very well could win, and I think he would deserve it, frankly. I'm not rooting for him to win. Sorry, Aaron, but I think he's made too many mistakes for me personally. However, I think his end game has been really good. And, this season, it has to be said, this season has been terrible strategically. Like, it goes back to even the numbers challenge where they went on for hours and hours beyond when they should. Strategically, these people suck, but they are so genuine and loving the experience that it's entertaining regardless of that. And I would almost prefer a strategic wash to what we've gotten, which is people who are very engaging, loving the experience, throwing their all into the experience. And I think that is Aaron. So when we look at all these players, I personally would vote for Kara to win. That's who I hope would win. However, I think Aaron's played well against this particular bunch of players. He's not someone who I think will go down as one of our best players, but for his first season, I think he's made all the right moves he could in this crazy group of people that are not the best strategists.
I agree. I would probably put my vote onto Kara to win, but Aaron is probably the person I see winning most likely at the moment. And I think it is well deserved. With the final 3, the way he navigated himself here in the end, he was playing very messy, but when it came down to it, he got a good group of people in the final 3 with him that he has a good chance against.
Messy but effective. I think that's the season on a whole. I mean, we knew the season was...
Yeah, I think honestly, losing Carl and Dean, the 2 things that he probably thought at the time were worst for his game, have given him the best shot of getting the win here.
Mm-hmm.
Even beyond, his personality and possible ignorance and, just not being good at the game, I don't like that how bad he was in challenges. Like,
that's true. That is going to hurt him.
He's probably one of the worst challenge performers I've seen in a while.
And I don't think he understands how bad even some of the challenges that he thought he actually did correctly, he didn't even do correctly at all.
Oh my God, it was torture. And the jury is actually laughing at him, but to a point where it's almost endearing to them because he's so bad. It's like an old man using technology. Like, he's not an old man. He's like, what, 30? I mean, he's so bad at technology. They're like, of course Aaron would fuck up the final challenge formatting. Like, he can't post an image to save his life. He's like a 70-year-old man on an iPhone. Like, it's so bad. You're right. He will go down as one of the worst challengers ever. Yeah, it's so bad. I think that will cost him votes. I think it could also endear people to vote for him, unfortunately. But that's where we are. This season is a fucking ride. I think, to close this out, I think this season has been super entertaining. You know, not the best strategically, but who gives a fuck? Because they've delivered on entertainment tenfold. Everyone, down to like the final 20 on. Like, that's the only two inactives were the only boring people this whole season. Everyone has delivered some way. Even Jack. I think they've just been a crazy bunch of misfits that have come together to give us a beautiful season of total insanity. We don't know what to expect from 1 minute to the next. I can't wait to see who wins. I feel like they'll deserve it, even though it's insane. And I think in any other season, they would be the worst players. But here we are. It's Tanzania. So, you know, embracing the 2020-ness of this all. I can't wait to see. I think whoever wins will be deserving. This season was a first for me. For someone who's hosted 37 seasons of Stranded, this group is totally different from any other season. They are the worst players in the best way. That's how I describe it.
And I think you can see the passion of all of them, too. I mean, we've had such an active pre-jury. They gave us a great pre-jury trip podcast. The Ponderosa is insanely packed with threads, 37 pages of commentary, additional threads they made to talk about random stuff. I mean, we've got such an active cast here. They were also passionate about playing the game. And I think even though they might not have been good at it, it was an entertaining mess for the rest of us.
Exactly. I think at about Final 8, Trav said something like, there are 2 or 3 people on the cast who I genuinely hate. That's how I can tell that this is a good season.
So, Poody, what you're saying is this is the worst season, which makes it one of the best seasons?
Yes, it is a train wreck of epic proportions, and we are here for it. I mean, look, the Lurkers, I think one of our best seasons because the Lurkers can't fucking look away. It's such a train wreck. Everyone is playing so horribly that it's amazing. So kudos to you all for giving your all to this glorious train wreck. I think we've been endlessly entertained. Things have come up, relationships, gay, straight showmances, which should not ever happen, but have. Goats being herded to the end and somehow becoming threats and winning final meeting. I mean, it's so off the wall and insane. We are here every minute and we love all of the characters this season, no matter how messy and ridiculous. I think it's been one of our best and certainly one of our most entertaining. So thank you all for this crazy season of, oh man, even removing 2 people for cheating and it's just like everything you could imagine possible. It's been a curveball. I can't stress this enough. I've hosted a long time, probably 15 years out of my 31. And I have been thrown for so many loops for something that should be predictable. Like at this point, I can pretty much write a season, you know, the most threatening person is going to go 1 by 1. And that did happen, but it was so unconventional that it was fascinating. So thank you all for giving your personality. We've enjoyed watching you. We enjoy hopefully getting to know all of you after the game is over. But I think that's going to do it for Tanzania. I can't wait to see who wins. I think this is the closest final we've had in a long time because I think they're all bad. But everyone this season has been bad. So fuck it. Let's see who wins. I can't wait.
And when we call everybody bad, take it as a compliment. We enjoyed you very much, despite all the shit we talked.
Yeah, I'm drunk. Don't listen to me. No, I think, you know, look, it's most people's first game. I think they gave it their all. You got the full Survivor Stranded experience. So kudos to you guys, man. I mean, we learned a lot about you guys. We hope to learn more as we get to know you personally. And welcome to the Crazy Stranded family. This was a great introduction to you all because it doesn't get any saner from here. So let's close it out with each person predicting who's winning. I predict, in my heart of hearts, I predict a surprise Kara win.
That's what I want to say too.
What do you think?
But I think it's going to be Aaron.
Okay, Aaron.
I want it to be Kara. I really, really do.
Nofo?
I hate to say it, but I have to agree with Loveita. I don't want him to win. I don't think he's the best winner. I think Kara is, but Aaron's going to win.
Hannah?
I'll say that I kind of predict Aaron's going to win, but I kind of hope Jack's going to win.
Wow.
Just because you'll hate
That's
it.
surprising.
You'll hate it, but I'll love it.
I don't hate that. I look, I love an underdog story. I love the fact that I railed on Jack so hard that he could come back. He surprised us in that final immunity. He could come back and win. I actually don't hate that pick. So a Jack pick. I think this is gonna be close and exciting final trouble.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about it.
I would love like a 3-3-2 vote, except for the fact that would mean if Jack is the 2 that he would break in favor of Aaron, and thus Aaron would win. But I think it would be great if everybody gets votes. I think all of them at this point would deserve the votes they get.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that would be okay. I think an Aaron win would be deserved. I think a Car win would be deserved. Of these final 3, it's super neck and neck. So I'm going to go ahead and close it out for this podcast. We've enjoyed the season thoroughly. I can't wait to see who wins. We'll get back to you guys on probably Monday night with the reunion. And then from there, we'll go into fan favorite, player of the season, Valentine Award. And of course, Danny and Tim have a brand new experience online coming to you guys. And we can't wait to debut that. So, of course, everyone is eligible listening because it's a brand new game. So with that, I will say this is going to close out the hosting podcasts for Tanzania. It's been fascinating to watch. Thank you guys for giving it your all. And we look forward to finally talking to you all.
Yeah, can't wait for Monday.
All right. Bye, everybody.